Review of the Beach Boys album, The Smile Sessions. It was released in 2011. The original recordings were produced by Brian Wilson, but it was kind of like compiled by other people. This, I guess, yeah, is kind of a compilation album. Obviously, done from the original recording sessions of the legendary Smile that wasn't released at the time. So it's kind of like I don't know. It's kind of a weird album to include in like the stuff. I'm gonna include it in my ranking when I do the ranking the albums video at the end of the Beach Boys reviews. But yeah, I remember when this came out, I was a big fan by the time this came out, and it was something that I really looked forward to. I pre-ordered it. I still actually remember, I think, the first time I listened to it. Sorry, I've been texting with my cousin about other music stuff. So, Justin, if you watched this, that was you. Anyway, yeah, I remember driving in my car like the first, because I got it when it came. Like I had to go somewhere. I can't even remember where it was at the time, but I remember it was dark, and I just remember putting this album in, driving around in my car, listening to it for the first time, and I had obviously the Brian Wilson Smile from 2004, where he kind of did his version of what Smile would have been like had it been released. And I was familiar with that version. I had that version for a long time. I bought it actually kind of before a lot of the Beach Boys albums, just because I had heard so much about Smile when I was reading stuff about the band as I was getting into them and listening to their music. I just kind of got so fascinated by the whole Smile story that I was like, yeah, I kind of got to hear this. And that was before this was out, so the best way to do that was through the Brian Wilson 2004 version. And I guess in some ways that kind of still is probably the best way to hear it, because the songs are completed on there, like in a more complete form than they are in some of the versions here. And Brian, I think, has said that he prefers that version, but I honestly, I like this version a lot more, which is kind of weird because a lot of times, like, if I hear one version of something first, I tend to like that better. But that definitely wasn't the case with, like, most of the Smile songs that are on this album. I prefer, like, compared to the versions that are on other albums, because a lot of these songs have kind of appeared before, because they used a lot of the Smile stuff in albums after Smile failed. Smiley Smile obviously can be compared a lot to this album, because they're completely different versions of like most of the songs on that album on here. And to me, that doesn't really take away from Smiley Smile, because Smiley Smile is a different of enough album that I can listen to it and I can listen to this, and even though they're some of the same songs and stuff, they're done nothing alike. They're almost like completely new songs, other than that they have the same lyrics and like vocal melody. But just the instrumentation and the backing tracks and stuff for this album are so much more elaborate. They're like on the scale of like the sound stuff, but kind of even crazier, really. They're all kind of like good vibrations and heroes and villains, as compared to like the Smiley Smile stuff that's super stripped down. The album's structured kind of strange. It has like kind of shorter song parts that lead into longer songs, kind of like main songs of the albums, which are kind of the songs that, or at least some of them are the songs that, well, no, actually most of them are songs that like have been on albums before. So the first song to start, Our Prayer, which was on 2020, is kind of just this like really nice like a cappella thing to start the album, and then it goes into this short like it's called like G, I think is how you say that. This short kind of like segue part that I think is based off of maybe like some older song or something, and that goes into Heroes and Villains. It's a longer version of Heroes and Villains than what was on like the Smiley Smile version. It has this kind of end piece to it, which I really like. I think it kind of, I don't know, I like this version better just because it has that kind of longer part to it. I almost kind of like the version of well, no, like I definitely like this version, most of it better than the '04 version, which is kind of the case for most of this album. I like the older versions better than the '04 version, even if that was like more complete in some cases, and that's mainly down to just like the Beach Boys vocals themselves. Like I don't think that anybody quite has as good of a vocal blend as they have. Like in Brian Wilson's band on his '04 one has a really great, like they're really great sounding and everything, but they're not the Beach Boys. And Brian, who sings most of the stuff on that version too, he's older by them, and I'm not saying anything mean or trying to insult Brian's older voice. I think he has a great voice still, for his age and stuff like that. But it's definitely not, he's doesn't have the high, young voice of his '60s self in 2004. So I like these versions better because of that mainly. And also, I don't know, I like the sound of the older production and stuff better than I do with the newer stuff. But anyway, I'm sorry, kind of rambling. But yeah, Heroes and Villains, this version's great. The fourth song, Do You Like Worms, Roll Plymouth Rock, Roll. These songs all kind of have like weird titles with like extra stuff to them, so it's kind of confusing. This is one of the songs that it's kind of like not really finished. The '04 version has more like a main vocal part and lyrics and stuff. This just has like the backing vocals and the instrumental parts, but I think it's still really cool. It kind of took me a while to appreciate it in this form since I was used to it with in the more completed version. But I do honestly kind of prefer this version a little bit now, just because the way it sounds. I just think it sounds like so cool. The bass and stuff on it, and the band's backing vocals are just crazy. Like it's just, they're kind of funny, but it's just like ridiculous all this stuff they were trying for this album, and it's crazy. Which I guess also I kind of forgot to mention that I think the album is supposed to it's supposed to represent, I think, like a trip across America, starting in like Plymouth Rock on like this song or something, and then like going to Hawaii by the last song is, at least I think, how I've heard it explained, which is kind of cool because the album, I don't know, it's just the way it goes. It does kind of, I don't know, it hits a lot of those things that does kind of, I guess, sound like a trip across America. It's weird, but I think he kind of, like Brian, kind of gets the mood he's going for and stuff with it. Then after that, it goes into I'm in Great Shape, which is only like a 28-second little thing, but it's cool. And that goes into Barnyard, which is only like 48 seconds, but it's amazing. It's just like ridiculous, but it's amazing. The seventh song, then My Only Sunshine, is another short of like, these are all kind of just like short song snippets that kind of like string together. And that's just got like a little bit of that song sung by Dennis. And then it goes into some like instrumental stuff, which then goes into Cabin Essence, the 8th song, which was on 2020. And Cabin Essence is just great. It's got a great vocal by Carl, great vocals by Dennis and Mike. Mike had a problem with this song's lyrics, apparently, over and over. The crow cries uncover the cornfield, because he didn't understand what that meant. I don't either, but I think it's a really cool lyric. But yeah, I don't know. Ironically, like, Mike sings it pretty well. But yeah, kind of rambling. It's definitely a really cool song. It's got banjo on it. That means I like it. Just a really great song. Not really like, I can't really tell if this version's any different than the 2020 version. To me, it doesn't really. It's one of the songs that doesn't sound that much different from the other version, so I don't really have a preference in this case as far as that one, but I do like this better than the '04 version. Um, so there are like kind of three versions of some of these songs, I guess. Uh, then that goes into the ninth song, Wonderful, which on Smiley Smile was kind of like creepy almost. And Carl, I think, sang it. And I do like that version. I didn't at first, but it took me a while to kind of, that album kind of took a while to grow on me. Especially, I think, I don't know if I listened to, I don't think I listened to this one first, actually. I think I heard Smiley Smile first, but I had heard the 04 Brian Wilson album before I heard Smiley Smile also, so at least I'm pretty sure that's the order. I don't know, it was a long time ago. But yeah, Wonderful on here though, it's just close to my favorite song on the album. It's got a great vocal from Brian, and it's got just this like really cool harpsichord part. There's really cool instrumental parts in this. Like I love as much as like the stripped down versions on Smiley Smile are pretty cool. These big like elaborate productions that Brian was doing for this album are just so awesome, and I don't know, it's so cool the kind of stuff he was doing at this period. And that song goes into I can't read my writing. Look and Child is Father of the Man, which is are also kind of like instrumental parts. I honestly can't remember much about these songs from the 04 version because it's been forever since I've listened to that, so I can't remember if they're more finished on there or not. Here, though, I think that they are pretty cool sounding, and then they lead. The 12th song, Surf's Up, definitely my favorite song on the album. I like this version a lot more than the version on the Surf's Up album. I think it's mainly because Brian sings the first part. I mean, I think Carl does a great job on the Surf's Up album version, but I definitely just like the way Brian sings it on here better. I obviously like it better than the 04 version too. But yeah, just a great song, great vocals from Brian, just crazy song. The 13th song, I Want to Be Around, I Want to Be Around / Workshop is basically like, it starts out as kind of like this nice relaxing music and then just kind of goes into like high school shop class noises. But I think it's pretty cool that Brian was like experimenting with stuff like that at this time, and I think it fits in nice, and it's pretty cool. It goes into the 14th song, Vegetables, which is kind of just ridiculous, but it's a great song. It's got great vocals. The lyrics are pretty funny. But the instrumental stuff that Brian was doing on here, and especially on this song, is just so cool. The 15th song, Holidays, is one that on the 04 version is like more complete. I can't really remember how well I like that one because it's been so long since I've listened to it. I probably should have listened to that version before doing this album, but I didn't think about it really until tonight. But yeah, I like it. I think it's got like some really cool instrumental stuff like the rest of this album. That goes into Wind Chimes, which has great vocals from Carl and just like really cool instrumental stuff that sounds like wind chimes, kind of. And like the version on Smiley Smile, the song's really cool too. But I just think that this, like one with the bigger production, is really cool. The 17th song, The Elements Fire, the song that Brian kind of thought caused fires or something, which is one of the things I guess that like kind of put him off finishing this album. It's definitely like kind of a creepy sounding song. It's really intense sounding. It does sound like, remind me of like a fire or like a fire department like going to a fire. It's definitely kind of a freaky song, but it's really cool that he was able to kind of achieve that effect through music and get that sound. And then it goes into Love to Say Dada, the 18th song, which it has this really kind of cool transition because it goes from this really like intense kind kind of creepy sounding music to then this more like just this weird, like almost like water sounding music. And I think that this song on the '04 version is called like In Blue Hawaii or something, and I kind of, that's the one thing from the '04 version that I like a lot better, because I really like the vocal melody and the vocal parts of that aren't on this album because they weren't finished. And then it goes into the final track, Good Vibrations, which is, a longer version on this one, I think, than the Smiley Smile version, because it was also on there. I don't know that. I mean, the original version is, obviously I was familiar with that before this version, and it's kind of, I guess, like the more iconic version. But I do like this one with the extended bit. I think just a little bit better. So yeah, the Beach Boys Smile Sessions, definitely a really cool thing. Even though it's an unfinished album and there's a lot of bonus tracks on here. Like I got the 2-disc version. There was a bunch more that came out. I think there was like a 5-disc versions that had like the whole session for like Good Vibration and Heroes and Villains and stuff. But I think at the time that was a little bit too much money. But yeah, definitely, even though it's unfinished, I think it's great. One of their best albums. I give it a 5 out of 5. It's just so cool, the stuff he was doing here, and the band, their singing's great as usual, and just a really cool album. I think deserving of its kind of legendary status, even if a lot of that's because it didn't come out. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Had this album have come out, what would it have done or whatever? I don't know. I feel like it might have been like a little bit ahead of its time, or kind of like not even in a time. Like it's really, I don't know. This is really like unique music in a way. It's kind of like, I feel like more classically influenced than a lot of the stuff from this period. Even though that might be wrong, because the Beatles did have a lot of stuff that had like that, but this, I don't know, is different in a way. Like it's just got I don't know, it's just really different music, and I don't really know that there's maybe like, I think that maybe if this had come out, it would have been like, people would have just been like, whoa, what's that? Because Pet Sounds didn't really sell that well, so who knows if it would have been like a huge hit or what if it had come out. But I mean, obviously I think it's great either way, and now I've rambled enough.